Good evening. I'm Kelda Yoon. Toronto police are looking for a suspect after a man plunged to his death from the 8th floor of a downtown apartment. It happened late last night. Police are now investigating it as a homicide. Olivia Bowden is live at Church and Shooter Streets where the incident happened. And Olivia, you've been speaking to residents there tonight. Could you tell us more about what exactly happened?
Now, Kelda, we know a man fell from the 8th floor of this building. He fell from the scaffolding behind me and died shortly after in the hospital. And we know police tonight have identified a suspect. And we also know that there was a commotion in the building before the fall. All of this will be used to help police piece together their investigation as they try to figure out what happened here.
We're still trying to determine how he came off the balcony.
A 38-year-old man, now identified as Ryan Williams, fell around midnight from the 8th floor balcony of the apartment and hit the scaffolding. He died shortly after in hospital. Police say Williams lived in the apartment with his mother, who was home at the time.
She's fine. Obviously, she's distraught. We've offered her victim services, and she's with one of her other family members.
And police have identified a suspect in the investigation. He is described as a male around 30 to 40 years old, about 5'8" or 9", that goes by the alias Justice. Police are also wanting to speak to 3 persons of interest. They are the 2 women pictured here and this man. Police say all of them fled the scene after Williams fell to his death.
The suspect and the persons of interest are urged to contact a lawyer and then contact us.
Police add Williams and the suspect are casual acquaintances, and that an altercation occurred inside the apartment before the fall. Residents who live on the 8th floor say trouble had been brewing in the unit.
Yelling, door slamming, really loud arguments in the hallway.
Now, police don't know whether Williams actually fell, but they did say that there was an indication that weapons were used before he went over the balcony. And police are also asking for the public's help in identifying a suspect and the 3 persons of interest. Back to you, Kelda.
Thanks so much, Olivia. That's our Olivia Bowden live for us tonight. Police have identified the man who was killed in a home invasion overnight in the city's West End. 30-year-old Matthew Burgart was found inside an apartment unit with gunshot wounds near Lakeshore and Long Branch. Greg Ross has more from that scene.
Police say they got a call just before 2:30 this morning for gunshots at this townhouse complex near Lakeshore Boulevard and Long Branch Avenue. Inside one of the units, police found a 30-year-old man suffering from gunshot wounds. He was rushed to hospital where he later died. Police say they now believe that this was a targeted home invasion.
We have learned that 3 suspects approached and forced entry into the townhouse armed with a firearm. There was 2 occupants within the residence at the time. A demand for personal valuables was made and a struggle ensued. A male 30-year-old was shot and the suspects fled the residence.
Police say the suspects were wearing dark clothes and ski masks to conceal their identity. They fled the scene in a white or light-colored sedan. Police would not tell us what valuables the suspects were after, but they did tell us they did not belong to the victim, who was only here to visit a friend. That friend is the owner of the home where all of this happened. That person was not injured. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
And in Scarborough, police are investigating after a man was found dead inside an apartment near Lawrence and Morningside yesterday.
At approximately 11:19 a.m., the Toronto Police received a radio call for a medical complaint at 4205 Lawrence Avenue East. Toronto Paramedic Services and Toronto Fire Services arrived at the scene initially and located a male with obvious trauma to his body. Life-saving efforts were commenced. Unfortunately, the victim passed away. He succumbed from his injuries and died at the scene.
Police have identified the victim as 40-year-old Mohammed Mo Abdullah Mohammed, also known as Mohammed Awad. Investigators are asking anyone with information to contact them. Honda is making a massive investment in this country's auto sector, and it's happening in our backyard. The Japanese manufacturer is spending $15 billion to support its electric vehicle operation north of the city in Alliston. The deal includes billions of dollars in subsidies from the federal and provincial governments. Chris Glover has the details.
A brief halt at Honda's Alliston assembly plant to announce Ontario's long-term play at being a world leader in electric vehicle production.
The largest auto investment in Canada's history.
It's a tremendous win for Ontario, for our workers, for all of Canada.
A $15 billion deal with Honda to build Canada's first fully integrated electric vehicle operation, from new battery parts and creation facilities to retooling the existing Honda assembly plant to be able to finalize EVs.
The central part of my pitch, the biggest advantage that Canada has in drawing investments from all around the world, are Canadian workers who are the best in the world.
Today, we're telling the world that Canada is the place to be.
This is a major move for Canada as it goes towards carbon neutrality and helps Honda hit its target to create 100% electric vehicles in North America by 2040.
Canada is rich in natural resources and actively promotes use of clean energy.
It's unclear how many of the positions will be new and permanent, but the government says the Honda EV plant and support facilities will employ more than 4,200 people in the Alliston area.
We thank you so very much in trusting us. We will not let you down.
My number one salesperson, Minister Fedeli.
Ontario's Minister of Economic Development reportedly paved the way for the deal with negotiations over the past couple of years.
This deal is another example of our two governments working together to rebuild our economy.
The Honda facility in Alliston will be the third EV battery plant in the province. It'll join the $7 billion Volkswagen plant in St. Thomas, scheduled to open in 2027, and the $5 billion Stellantis battery plant in Windsor, set to begin production this year. With the world now watching Ontario's EV production, people in Alliston seem to be watching the closest of all.
That's great. I hope it works out for everyone.
I think it's fantastic. I could not help but think it's fantastic. The economy is not very good. The government's not really good either. But this is a new shot that we're all going to have a chance to benefit from.
Well, definitely, yeah. Be good for the community, yeah. You know, they've done well at this stage, so any addition's got to help.
Resident Anthony Osborne is on board, but has concerns about the transition to electric.
If it all takes off, you know, there's a lot of doubt about these cars coming forward, you know. A lot of people say they're going to keep their gas cars, so time will tell.
Margaret Ringland worries the area has already been struggling with poverty and homeless and congestion issues.
Really doesn't make much difference to me, other than it'll increase the traffic in Alliston, as all the plants do. So I guess it's good for the economy, though, in the area, and I guess it'll help. I'd like to see some money go from that into the taxes and maybe towards some social housing and stuff that we need in this community.
I think that speaks volumes to, you know, what really draws people to this community are the workers, the skills, and the quality of work that's being done by those individuals.
The executive director at the local employment office says the economic boost will be immeasurable.
We consider Honda a community business, although it's an international company. They're very involved with our community and they're very supportive of the community. So it's always nice to see them make that investment, because it really does solidify the jobs that that are so important to the community around us, and make sure that we know that that's going to continue for the long term.
He says the local spin-off is critical, from those directly involved like cleaners and suppliers, but also all the way down to local shops and restaurants.
A huge and exciting move by the province. It's difficult enough to retain big businesses in our communities. So to not only retain Honda, but to build on it with this level of magnitude is terrific for our community.
Unlike other EV plants previously announced in Ontario that got funding from direct government subsidies, the Alliston operation will get funding from tax credits and financial incentives, roughly $5 billion split evenly between the governments of Ontario and Canada.
As a government, we're making choices to invest, to draw in these important companies that we're creating jobs not just for now or the next few years, but for coming generations.
This is generational investments that their families, their kids may be working here, and we've seen this grow.
So over the next 6 months, the plans will be finalized for those other battery support facilities. And as far as the retooling of the assembly line is concerned, that is expected to be fully operational by 2028. And at that time, it is expected to be able to produce up to 240,000 vehicles per year. Chris Glover, CBC News, Alliston.
Welcome back. We are days away from the annual Harry Jerome Awards, named after the late Canadian Olympian. The awards celebrate excellence in the Black community, but behind the scenes, controversy is swirling around the organization that runs the event. Now, Jerome's daughter says she no longer wants her father's name associated with the organization. Sarah McMillan has this story.
Jerome finit troisième.
Harry Jerome made his mark on the track, bringing home a bronze medal at the 1964 Tokyo Olympics and setting a total of 7 world records. For the past 4 decades, the annual Harry Jerome Awards have celebrated excellence and achievement in the Black community.
I used to love going to the awards. I was so proud to go to the awards.
But now Jerome's daughter, Debbie Smith, doesn't want his name associated at all after hearing allegations of possible financial mismanagement at the organization that puts on the event.
You're putting a black cloud over my dad's name, which is, to me, unacceptable. That breaks my heart.
The awards are organized by the Black Business and Professional Association, or BBPA. In recent weeks, some members have raised concerns internally about alleged financial mismanagement and misappropriation of funds. One of those members, Chandran Fernando, noted the charity's vital mission of empowering Black entrepreneurs and professionals, but told us in a statement that he is deeply troubled by an apparent lack of transparency in the recent management of the organization by its board of directors and leadership team. Smith says she was shocked and heartbroken to hear of the allegations.
Those two words shouldn't go together. Harry Jerome allegations of fraud, misuse of funds, whatever the word they're using.
Last week, she sent a cease and desist letter to the BBPA board, demanding it stop using her father's name and likeness.
Smith says the BBPA has not responded to her. The charity continues to advertise this weekend's event. It also did not respond to our questions. However, in a letter to members last month, the BBPA's chair said the board categorically denies the allegations. Sarah McMillan, CBC News, Toronto.
The issue of the keffiyeh came up again at Queen's Park today. Now, the checkered scarf is a cultural piece of clothing for Arabs and Palestinians, but it has also become a common sight at pro-Palestinian protests, prompting it to be banned inside the legislature. And today, one member defied that ban. Lorenda Redekop takes us through what happened.
Independent MPP Sarah Jama promised she'd keep wearing her keffiyeh inside the legislature despite the ban, and today she did.
I must warn the member for Hamilton Centre.
Speaker Ted Arnott said earlier this week that he couldn't tell for sure what she was wearing. Today, he clearly could. Before that warning, he had reminded members of the rules: no props, signage, or political attire. He has decided that at this time, the keffiyeh is a political symbol. Jama refused to take off her scarf.
Sarah Jama, you are named. You must leave the chamber.
She didn't move, and security did not remove her. In a statement, the Speaker's office told us he was not prepared to order that force be used. Jama remained in her spot for the entire question period, but she was sanctioned for the rest of the day. That meant she wasn't allowed to vote today, for example. Afterwards, she spoke to reporters and blamed Premier Doug Ford.
The Premier has spoken about this ban needing to not exist, and yet his own members, the Conservatives, are the one consistently saying no to the removal of this ban. The Conservatives are making this political.
Inside the chamber, other politicians tried to support JAMA. NDP leader Marit Stiles attempted to yet again bring up a unanimous consent motion to overturn the ban. But she was told that couldn't happen in the middle of question period or in the middle of her series of questions.
I'd like to ask for unanimous consent, Speaker. This is outrageous that we are seeing one of our members removed from...
Yeah, that's not the same subject as the original question.
Immediately after question period, it was the Liberals who attempted a unanimous consent motion. Theirs was slightly different from the ones we've seen recently from the NDP, but it had the same result: defeated. Premier Doug Ford wasn't at the legislature today. He was at that big Honda announcement where he was asked about all of this.
Well, again, the Speaker runs the legislature. I don't. That was his choice, and he's the one that runs the legislature.
JAMA vows to continue wearing her keffiyeh. The legislature isn't back in session until May 6th. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto's sidewalk litter bins are getting a makeover. Residents have long voiced their dissatisfaction with the existing bins, complaining about overflow and garbage blowing into the streets. The city says the new design will address those concerns. Tyler Cheese has the details.
Things being stuffed in the crack of it, and you're like, I don't want to throw my garbage because I don't want to touch someone else's.
Definitely have ran into overflowed ones a few times.
Complaints about the city's old garbage bins are pretty common in Toronto. Like this one here, you can see the door's been left wide open. Sometimes they're completely overfilled, and really this has been an ongoing problem since they first rolled out in 2007.
Back then, these are the bins the city wanted to replace. That led to a 20-year contract with Astral Out of Home, and in came new bins with a foot pedal to help people throw litter away hands-free. Only the pedals often didn't work and were eventually removed from the bins altogether. Since then, the city has worked with Astral to design newer versions of the bins, eventually switching from the plastic rounded model to those made of metal. Even so, the complaints have continued. But now, 17 years into the contract, the city says this new and more durable design will address the issues.
These new bins feature a wider opening of the mouth. There's 3, so that you can put in your garbage and your litter without obstruction. They're also more durable, stronger hinge, and have new locking mechanisms.
Starting in June, the city will also be piloting a bin sensor program. Around 250 sensors will be installed to relay when bins are at or near capacity to city staff. Many are hoping this new rollout will be the end of the city's garbage grievances once and for all.
I hope that these bins are going to be a home run. I hope that we can stop talking about overflowing garbage bins here in the city of Toronto and designs that don't meet the functional requirements of residents. I hope we're not talking about that anymore.
But he notes the new design comes as the contract with Astral Out of Home is set to end in 2027. That's something the mayor says she's keeping in mind as she oversees the new rollout. Tyler Cheese, CBC News.
Okay, prepare to feel a little jealous. A couple from Lakefield, Ontario, that's about 20 minutes north of Peterborough, are $70 million richer after winning a recent Lotto Max jackpot. They won the prize in February, but take a look at when the money was officially deposited into their bank account.
$70 million in our bank account.
Wow, hey?
Sorry.
What a moment. That's Doug and Enid. Now, they initially thought they had won $70,000 until they looked a little bit closer. Now they have lots of plans for the money, including a few vacations and a new kitchen renovation. So happy for them, Colette, right? A little bit jealous too, but that was such a cute reaction.
Yeah, just absolutely. You got to be happy for them, right? You know, I think I'm going to be pretty happy for us too when we get to the weekend and some of the warmer air comes into play. But for now, we do have another frost advisory to deal with for tonight for the City of Toronto, Niagara region, and southwestern Ontario as well, as those temperatures drop down to freezing, in some cases just below, in some cases just above, but you can still get frost development. And from this morning, looking at where some of those numbers were, like Peterborough, speaking of that area, -5, so a really chilly start. It will be a cool start tomorrow as well. But this afternoon around 5 p.m., Yeah, this is where we got to. So there were some double digits on the board. We have clear skies through the overnight, kind of another reason why the temperatures can fall off so much. The light winds don't help either. That can enhance the development of the frost. And just taking you back to earlier today and this afternoon, a kind of a 3-hour summary of some of the very active weather coming out of the U.S. This is closer to the warm front that is eventually going to be coming our way. They're going to have active and severe weather in that region again tomorrow. We stay under the influence of high pressure. This system inches closer and closer, still not here for Friday. But by Friday night, it's pushing into southwestern Ontario. And by the time we get to Saturday, this is moving across the Golden Horseshoe as well. So we will have periods of rain, some embedded thunderstorms possible in there too. But what's really important as soon as tomorrow the warm-up begins towards Windsor, trying to stretch towards London, Saturday our temperatures will be coming up towards the GTA, but it's really not till we get Saturday night into Sunday. We're into this warmer sector. And with that, the temperatures will be going up, but so will the humidity. Sunday is going to be kind of a sticky day around here. Frost advisories again for tonight. Just be aware, Markham, Oshawa, dipping below freezing a few degrees there, right? Tomorrow, 11 for Toronto, 15 on Saturday with periods of rain, and then Sunday a chance of showers too. But look at those numbers, the thermometer going up into the 20s and the humidex values. Kelda, yes, it is going to feel like we're at about 30.
Wow, what a turnaround. All right, thanks so much, Colette. And that's our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. We will be back with your next local newscast tomorrow evening at 6. Have a great night, everyone.